Hi, everyone, and welcome to the fourth episode of All Cards on Deck LinkedIn Live. I'm Ola, and I'm the host of these little LinkedIn series where I sit down with different guests, with different backgrounds from different countries, different life stories, but they all have something in common. They all live their lives on purpose. So we get to dive into who they are, what is their purpose, how they found it, what challenges they faced along the way. And then the second part of these LinkedIn lives has a little twist. A little twist. We're going to be using these cards. They are called We Are Not Really Strangers. I'm going to pull three cards from them. And these cards have random questions, personal questions. So our guests don't know what's gonna come up. Even I don't know what's gonna come. And today on our live, we have Noémie Pillon. She was leading operations for more than 12 years in the biggest companies in different countries also. And the names of these companies we all know. Disney, Gameloft, Groupon, Talabat. And this year, Noemi made a bold shift. She shifted from building other people's visions and dreams to creating her own business and building a life on her own terms. And it has been such a pleasure to be a part of her journey, to witness and support her on this during this pivotal moment. So, welcome, Noemi. So happy to have you and excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you so much, Ola, for the opportunity. I'm really happy to be here today. I just want to apologize for my voice that it's not 100% recovered. We have a lot of viruses right now roaming over Dubai, so apologies. I will do my best
Yeah,
to make it as clear as possible. But yeah,
yeah, I could see that you geared up with some tea, with lemon, with mint.
if you see me
Yeah,
drinking, it's normal.
yes, yeah, yeah. Go with it, and definitely wishing you a quick recovery. And thank you also so much. No matter the throat, to still saying yes to this event and joining it. Really, really appreciate it.
No problem.
So let's start with the first question, which is, who are you?
Yeah, a kind of easy but tough question. So my name is Noémie, as you can hear from the way I speak. I come from France, so from the southwest side of France. So I grew up basically in the countryside, so I don't even think anyone in my family predicted that I will basically travel the world and work overseas. So I started my journey, I would say, with international business school. So I started my first expat. I was actually 18 years old when I moved to China, and that kind of defined, the rest of my career. So I finished my studies when I was 21, 22 years old, and from then on I moved to the UK. So I started my career in London with Groupon. Back in the days, it was a very booming space, and it was a very exciting journey. From Groupon in Singapore, in UK, I managed to move to Singapore, and I spent around 6 years living in Singapore, which was an amazing part of my career. And at that time, I worked with Disney, Gameloft, so my career was very much driven on the video game industry. And after that, I moved to Dubai. So I've been in Dubai for the past 8 years, and my journey has had a lot of ups and downs, being based in the Middle East, because it's been challenging for me to have the same kind of exposure in the gaming industry. The gaming industry is now growing a bit more, but it has been like a challenge to stick in the industry. So I kind of had to go to different paths, but all for the best. So yeah. And I worked in multinational companies all the way to startups. So like started when we were like 10, 15 people, all the way to 45 people. And yeah, my background is very much operational. So I started as a business analyst and I became at the end of my, I would say, corporate journey or work journey, head of operation. And yeah, so I've been in Dubai for 8 years. I live with my husband. I just had a young daughter last year, so she's 1 year and a half. And I have two Arabian Maos cats that live with me as well. So yeah, that's about who I am.
So you've lived in 5 different countries, right? France, UK, Singapore, UAE, and France, right?
Yeah, I lived in quite a few countries, yeah. And
Yeah.
China as
How
well, long time ago,
in
maybe.
China, so six, right?
Yeah, around that, yeah.
Yeah. So how was it for you to move around? Because I've actually also lived in 6 different countries, and I feel like every time I move, we gotta think of the basic things, right? The house, the community, the friends, the job. There's really like letting go of all the past life and
Yeah.
starting anew. How was it for you to move like 6 times to different places and restart your journey, restart your life anew?
Would say something quite boring, but I guess it's easier when you're younger. I mean, when I was moving, I was very young. I was in my early 20s, so you don't move with a lot at that time. Like you don't necessarily have a family, you don't have pets, you don't necessarily have a companion or partner. So it was, I would say, easier. And also, I think when you're young, you don't really fear anything in a sense. Like, I mean, when I first moved to China, I was like, exactly, I think I was 19 years old. But I was also very naive, like, I didn't make much research. All I wanted to do is like, living a big adventure and seeing a big cultural difference. Like, because my studies were about international business, so I was always very attracted to the idea of exposing yourself in an environment that is so different from your own environment where you grew up, for example, and being open to other culture. I think that's been the main driver across my career, is to be able to adapt to different environments, and it can be culture, it can be companies. I would say I'm very adaptable in the sense of I will try to get as social as possible and create like good relationship. Of course it takes time, but I mean it's being open to to the outside world that I think has helped me around, and being willing to understand people, being curious, asking questions. I remember one of the first internship I had back in the UK. My mentor for the internship, at the end of the internship, he said one thing. He said, "Well, Noémie is not afraid to ask questions." I didn't know if it was a good
Yes.
thing, but he said, no, it's actually a very good thing, And I think across my life, I think it's very important to ask questions. I feel like, yeah, there's no such thing of a bad question. Like, okay, you might feel sometimes, oh, if I ask this, I might sound stupid, but actually there might be like other 5% in the room that are wondering the same thing, but they just don't dare to ask. And I think it works in business and it works in general with people. Like, I think people in general, they love to answer questions and they love when somebody is being curious about them. I mean, of course, in a good way, in a positive, curious way, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like, well, first of all, there are no wrong or bad questions, as you said. And also, I feel like our life, the quality of our life also depends on the quality of the questions we ask ourselves. I really like this quote and this phrase. The better the quality of the questions, the better is the quality of our life, because one right question could bring one right answer and then initiate the change, initiate the person, or push the person to take action
Yeah.
towards change or towards something better. Okay, so moving to the purpose part, what is your purpose?
I think that's the million dollar question.
Yes,
I'm
I feel
not
like
sure.
all these questions are like a $1 million. They're quite
Want
simple, but they're also these yeah, quite deep questions.
Yeah, I don't want to disappoint everybody, but I'm not sure I found my purpose per se. But I would say work professionally, at least it became clearer in the sense that I think after the journey I had in multiple companies, multiple industries, multiple size of companies as well, I think the commonality of it was the obviously the operations background. So I'm a very much get your hand dirty person. So trying to fix the problem. So that's something I really enjoy. So like. If I identify a bottleneck or an issue like within my own scope or even if it's another scope in the company, I'll try to understand and see how we can fix it, how we can make it better. And I think that's been the common thing, across my career. When I started at Gameloft, what I really enjoyed about that role and what I was always trying to get in a new role was that same thing was being able to diagnose, like especially in my case I was working on games, so like a lot of like free to play games. Back in the days it was the next thing, but there was not many people experienced in monetization. So when we all started, we were just mainly junior like business analysts. We had all had a background in business analysis, and we were brought in to apply that kind of background to use data and then come up with recommendations. But one thing I really enjoyed from that perspective was, yeah, being able to diagnose the problem, being able to explain to the rest of the team, okay, this is based on the data, this is the trend we're seeing, and here's what we can do to solve it. And I think it became very obvious as my last experience in a startup was with AudioMob. I had the chance in this company to do multiple audits. So the first time I was asked for my first 30 days in the company, well, you need to do an operational audit of all our processes. So the team was small at that time. We had like 10, 12 people. But still, in 30 days, to really comprehend what's going on within the department, it's not that easy. But I think I really enjoy that challenge, and it's actually something that has enabled me now more in my career, in the sense that after the work we've done with Ola and now through my fractional work, it's something that I really learn how to use that kind of mindset. Like it's to diagnose the problem and find the solution. It's really something I enjoy. So it took a while, but yeah, it became more and more obvious through the work that I've done with coaches. I didn't come up on it myself. I wish, but I think yeah, sometimes you have to be facing a wall to finally ask yourself the right questions as to what you want to do in your life, I suppose. But yeah, I guess it's my purpose for now. But if you ask me in 5 years, it might have changed. And if you had asked me 5 years ago, it was completely different. So I think we have to recognize that the purpose change, like based on your life and your own life circumstances. Like nothing is really static in life. So yeah.
Totally agree with you because a lot of people think they found their purpose and that's it. That's gonna be always there in their life. They'll be doing one thing, they found it, yay. But then what I also witness that a lot of people find their purpose, they do what they love, and then after a few years, the fire kind of like is not as big as it was
Yeah.
before, and it's totally okay, right? It's totally okay to then shift to something else to fulfill your purpose in a different way, because there's also a really cool concept. We discussed it with you on our sessions. The concept about needs, right? The six human needs,
Yeah.
which is love and connection, variety, stability. Um, what else is there? Growth, growth. and two more. Sorry, I forgot them. But one that I want to point out right now is variety, right? If the person's main need is variety, you can straight away see on their LinkedIn profile that they changed jobs 5 times, that their purpose will also change 10 times. And it's again
Yeah.
totally okay. That's because the one of the top drivers is variety, wanting to experience and experiment more new with more new things. And then you see profiles on LinkedIn where a person worked for 10 years in the same company. That's a person who definitely has stability as their top need. And you've mentioned also that you faced that wall, right? While in that search, like how did you remove that wall? How did you first of all realize, oh my God, there is a wall, and then how were you able to remove it?
Well, I think the realization came quite abruptly, but um, like I spent the last 3 years in a high growth environment, like a very demanding kind of environment. And yeah, it was all well for a while, but I think I became a mother last year, and I think that kind of shifted a little bit something in my brain, which I guess it's not news to a lot of women. Motherhood like really kind of reset your cards and open your eyes on many things. And I think after I gave birth, I went back to work like only 2 months after, so it was quite short. And I was in denial, like I thought like, well, I could continue my very exciting career in this startup, continue working like 10, 12 hours a day and everything would be fine. Actually, it wasn't. And I guess also well, the environment became harder for me. It became a bit more toxic, and I think I was not psychologically or physically not in the right space to continue like this. So yeah, I took the harsh decision to remove myself from the environment, even though I've invested a lot in this space. And to be fair, it was not easy because a lot of people thought I was completely crazy. Like, what the hell? Like, you just quit and without anything. Because of course, I've changed jobs a few times in my career, but I always had something lined up. And to be fair, I never left because I was in a very difficult situation mentally. Like this time was more because like mentally I just couldn't deal with it anymore. Like I think I was not far from burnout, or at least I was not in the right space. And I think that's the first time in my life where I really realized, okay, you need to put your health first rather than your career, even though it's going to mean that yes, you will no longer be a head of operation. We are so attached to the titles that we carry. And yeah, it was difficult. Like I did struggle like the first few months in a kind of identity crisis, because when you attach yourself so much into a company or into a title or into no matter what you do or if it's a specific industry, once you remove that part in your life, you actually wonder who I am behind that, like
Exactly.
without this. So I think that's when I really hit a wall for me, because I also realized I always say, oh, a job is a job, but no, actually I was very attached to the whole identity that you carry along with a role. And yeah, I think that was the first realization. So at that time I said, look, I think I can continue the same path. So of course I interviewed for other jobs. I was going to a few rounds, but it never really got like to the final thing, because I do think in my head I was stuck as well, and probably like people could feel that I was not fully recovered from the experience. Like so. I think it took me like 2-3 months to get to that stage, but yeah, so I decided to get some coaching, because I had some coaching in the past, also to kind of find my purpose, but I never acted on it. Like I was always ignoring it. Like I knew it was there deep down, but I would say, okay, this time is the time to really start to dig deep into what else I could be doing apart from the same pattern over and over. So as all I said, yes, you get excited in the job after 2 to 3 years. You're either like on the verge of burnout, or you want variety, you want something else. So I'd say I need to find something that fulfills me better than just seeking the next opportunity again and again and again. So yeah, that's how it started, but not by choice. I think just because my career, that was a tough time in my career. That was a tough situation, but in a way, I'm so glad it happened because it's been yeah, it's been really helpful to open my eyes and to look at different ways, of having a career. And because we are so told about, especially my generation, like millennials, as we, I mean, I'm 37 years old. Like we were told, you need to chase, the big title, the big companies, the big thing. But at the end of the day, does it really make you happy? I mean, that's a big question mark. That usually I've talked to a lot of people during that period of time where I was. Looking for a job, looking for purpose, and I reconnected also with a few people, and it was quite funny to realize a few of us were in the exact same situation where we're reaching a point where like late 30s, early 40s, and we realize yes, work is important, but it's not everything that defines you. You need to be able to know who you are outside, your title and your job, and being able to have a life actually outside your work as well. So yeah.
How does it feel right now to detach, from that identity of titles, being a head of operations? How does it feel to detach from it?
I would say it's been what 3 4 months 3 months since I started my fractional work. So I'd say it gets easier, but still in the fractional work, you're still attached to companies. I mean, not as deeply as a full-time employees, but you still carry a job title with those roles. Like as you can see on my LinkedIn, I'm currently helping one of my ex-boss, like a really valuable person in my career, because we're very similar values, and that's also the thing I learned through the process is that values is actually the most important part when you get to work in a company. Like you need to ensure that it aligns with your values, because that's the main thing. Like when you're not aligned, that's the biggest challenge, I would say. But yeah, sorry, going back to your question, Ola, the initial question, because I think I'm diverging.
So, yeah, the question was in regards to
Ah, yes, the
detaching
job
yourself, like the
title, yes.
feeling.
No, I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
won't lie. I mean, there's a part of me, like, I'm truly quite proud of having done what I did, and, jumping off a cliff without any parachute and figure it out on its way, like Mission Impossible. But yeah, no, I won't lie. Of course, like sometimes I hear people having, a great job in those companies that everyone dream of. Of course, I won't lie and say, oh wow, it's not nice. Of course, there's still that part of me, because being there, having done that, I know like it's a very high sense of identity. When I used to work at Disney, of course, I was really proud of saying, "Oh, I work for Disney." Like, who doesn't know the Walt Disney Company? It's a very strong strong feeling of appartenance. I don't know how we say, or belonging, I guess. But
Yeah.
I think I'm also slowly realizing that what matters in this life is, how you healthy, how you happy, and that's about it. Of course, are you financially able to provide for yourself and your family? Of course, it's a big piece of the equation, but I also believe, yeah, money is important, but money brings you comfort. It doesn't bring you happiness. You can have like the best paid job on earth, but if you're miserable and you don't have time to do any hobbies, you don't have time to spend time with your family, with your loved ones. I mean, what does it matter at the end of the day? Like it's never displayed on anybody's coffin, or he was the CEO of this company. I mean, what matters is the memories you build with the people you love around you. And I think, yeah, yeah, it's kind of really shifted for me at that
Yeah, how
point.
did definition of happiness shift for you? The you before, Noemi before, and Noemi after. Like, what was happiness to you before, and what is happiness to you right now?
I think happiness for me before was still strongly attached to, like the kind of companies I would have worked with, the kind of role I was having. I mean, I was very much driven to climb the ladder and, have something like important in that sense. Um, that was a big part. Of course, there was still the big piece about being happy, healthy, and of course surrounded by the people you love. That was still very important. But I would say maybe back then it was 50-50. Now it's probably like 70-30. So 70% is my life outside work, and the work I do, yes, it's important. I'm still ambitious. I still want, to build a good career, but it's not defining me as my sense of happiness in a way. I mean, I don't know how to say it, but it's more like, yeah, it has its limits. Like work has its limits. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. I have a question in regards to motherhood. I'm not a mother yet, and I'm always wondering how women combine, being a motherhood with work. What helps you find harmony between these two?
I said my previous job, I think I was in full denial, thinking that I could deal with it like nothing happened, like I didn't have a baby. Actually, yeah, the first few months I've dealt with it, but I was not able to cope after. I mean, I quickly realized that it was too taxing for me, and yeah, and I never thought that. I mean, to be honest, I used to be the one even judgmental in my 20s or early 30s, thinking, I don't get it, like those women, they have such amazing careers. Why are they taking a step back? Even like some mothers and women will, definitely like cut work like for a few years. Like a friend of mine did that, and at first I was like, wow, she completely like retracting from work, and I used to think, wow, that's a crazy decision, like, but yeah, once you have a kid, as I said, you never really understand the impact it's going to have on you, and how you're going to perceive this relationship, and how you're going to place it as well, like in the middle of everything that we have to do as women. So yeah, I mean, I guess it was a moment when you realize, especially when you're really young, I also figure out, I was like, okay, like if I only have one child, which is probably going to be the case, like, you want to be there in those early years. You want to be there like as they grow, because they grow really fast. As like, how can I combine a career? Because not working was not an option for me. Like I really like didn't want not just to not do anything. Of course, I want to keep earning my own money and make my own living, and be proud of what I do at work. It's still very important for me, so it was not an option to stop working, but I wanted to find a way to combine both, like a more work-life balance. So that's why the fractional work really answers that, like, because it's, yeah, you're there to deliver a mission. Like, of course, with one of the company I work with, I have a retainer, so I have to commit to a certain amount of hours per week. But of course, I commit to that. But there's not like, you're not supposed to do your hours in a special way. Like, you can choose to work, let's say, from Monday to Wednesday the whole day, but maybe you want to work in the evening. So it becomes very easy with a child, to arrange that kind of thing. Also, I'm not gonna lie, I mean, we live in Dubai, we also get a lot of help that is very helpful. I don't think, even without the help I have now, I don't think I would have been able to even do the fractional work, or even the amount of time I spent networking, building my portfolio. It was still a full-time job to transition into that. So yeah, it's a balance, but yeah, at least I feel with the situation I'm in now, it's much easier to balance than life in a startup. I think it would have been really really hard for me to be present, in the evening or in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense because now you have more flexibility, right? You are kind of like your own boss with your timing, where you can work. Even I spoke to a lot of entrepreneurs and even myself, I can take a Wednesday off, but then I would work Saturday and Sunday
Yeah,
full on. So that flexibility is there, and it brings an opportunity to spend more time with family when they need us most, for
yeah.
example, or when there's an opportunity or something exciting.
Mm.
So back to purpose. How exactly did you find it? How did you find your purpose?
Well, it's not like I woke up one morning and ta-da! I wish it was that way. No, I would say it's through the coaching that I invested in. I mean, I won't lie. Like when I meet people and they're telling me, I don't know what to do next in my career, or I'm kind of lost. I've been made redundant, or this thing happened at work, and this and that. I say, you know what? Like, get yourself through some coaching. Of course, there's a lot of variety of coaches. Of course, you have Ola here today. She's amazing at what she does. I did two type of coachings during that. Actually, three. Yeah, you think this lady she
You
coached
went
two
full
kind of
on. You went
coachings.
full on.
No, I did three. So I had one actually before I left the previous company I was in. I had one coach, and actually this lady. We've known each other for many years because she used to be my manager at Gameloft, and now she became a coach, and she's very good at what she does. So I had some coaching with her to kind of navigate through the difficulties I was facing at work at that time. And through the coaching with her, the solution was, well, you need to remove yourself from that environment. So that was the ending of the coaching. But still, it helped me a lot to identify that with her. I kind of also identify that I don't want to just say, oh, that place that I was in was bad, because it's also how I was reacting myself to different situations. When there is a conflict, it's not just okay, the company is terrible and you're perfect. There was also certain things that I ended up doing, like some kind of pattern that I started to identify that I was doing over and over and over. So that's how I started to contact Ola, because I saw that she was really like using a specific methods to go back to your unconscious mind and figure out why you were doing like certain patterns at work. So for me, my main pattern was I was the helper. So that means like if
Hmm.
I saw somebody in a bad situation at work, it was really hard for me not to get involved, not to try to protect that person or protect the situation. Sometimes, yes, it was needed, I would say, or maybe it brought something good, but most of the time it also put me in difficult situations, like maybe with my management or with the way I was interfering in this kind of thing. Because for me, the biggest thing was I couldn't deal with a situation being unfair on someone. So I would take, again, I suppose it also depends on the environment you're in. If you're in a toxic place, yeah, that kind of behavior will get triggered more easily. Now, where I'm currently
Hmm.
working now, I don't see that kind of behavior happening because also the environment is a very healthy one. So, but still, I quickly like concluding, you know what, like you're not getting younger, you identify that, you need to figure out what to do with it, because it's not normal, like you're gonna keep repeating the same thing. So anyway, with Ola, we went through that. We went through also other patterns that I was having. I don't remember all of them, but I guess there was the perfectionism as well. Because yeah, it was very upbringing, or you have to do a perfect work, or I could spend like hours like fine-tuning something that actually nobody really care about. So it's like you need to, yeah, to witness like the things that you're good at, but also the things that you've been doing again and again and again without asking yourself, because it's actually so unwired. So when we started the work, Ola had this specific method about going back to the past, some events that happened to you in your childhood, and let's be honest, I was very skeptic. I was like, what am I doing?
I
Like,
remember that.
you could tell I was like, what am I doing, like with this situation, going back, flying over. I was very, very skeptic. But yeah, it turned out really, really, like it opened my eyes in a lot of situations, and it opened my life in my eyes in the sense that yeah, I realized like the same pattern where when they were happening or when something was happening after the training with and coaching with Ola, I would realize, oh, okay, I know I have identified this is the kind of situation where my brain is wired to do that, but I've learned that there are other ways to answer this problem. So it's been really helpful in that sense, and yeah, it also gave me a lot of confidence into what else I can do, because I think you become also a better person when you're willing to in a way study yourself a bit more, or like understand yourself a bit more, even the part that you don't really want to understand why you're doing that. So yeah, I think it was very beneficial. Outside Ola, I also had another coach called Eric Tan. Eric is also somebody I met through Gameloft, so it's quite funny to witness a lot of Gameloft people have become coaches now.
Yes, great
Yes.
connections.
But Eric was more on the practical level. So I would say with Ola, it was more like the bias, the patterns, the unconscious mind, and how you can help on that and knowing more yourself. With Eric, it was very much practical coaching. So how do I get from 0 to 1 client? How do I get from 1 to 2 clients? So, and he's been with me on this journey, and it's been amazing. Like, I mean, sometimes sending me WhatsApp, telling me, so how many DM did you do this week, and contacted these people, and of course,
Accountability partner.
the accountability partner, and of course sometimes I'm like, oh gosh, like I was thinking like, go away, because the difficult thing was for me, I think the hardest was to start posting on LinkedIn. When I started this journey of transitioning, of course everyone tells you, if you're becoming a solopreneur or you're doing some fractional consulting, fractional mission, you need to start blasting out there and tell people this is what you're gonna do. And this was one of my biggest barrier from a practical level, because
Hmm.
I was so scared of the judgment. I guess my own
What
judgment
people think
was hard, but
quite
also
big.
the judgment of people, like, oh, what they're gonna think of me, what they're gonna say. So yeah, it was really hard, to overcome that fear. And I was always saying, oh, the people I post on LinkedIn. But I guess because myself I was very judgmental at the beginning, like wow, I was in a way I was like, wow, they are there to say all these things, but actually there is a voice for that, and everybody has a voice. I realized, like, everyone's voice matter, every experience matters, and no matter what you did, I think it's quite important to share it. But it was hard for me because I didn't think like I was, I guess, legitimate or good enough to do it. So, but yeah, the biggest realization is when I started doing it. Of course, the previous months I was also more involved with my network, like a lot. I had a discussion with already a lot of people that were close to from me. For a few people, they knew already that I was transitioning in that, but still, the impact it had was amazing. Like, I received like a lot of inflows, and I realized, wow, that's the power. When you start to share more with authenticity, about your life and your journey. Actually, people are willing to help you, and a lot of opportunities can come from that. So I think that was the reassurance I kind of needed to push along. Okay, I wouldn't say I've been great since. Eric will say, yeah, well, you haven't posted in a while, which is
He's
true.
here, by the way. He's watching. I saw him leave a comment. Thanks for a shout out. And I think we added each other just today. So when you were talking about Eric, I'm like, oh, we just connected today.
Amazing, amazing. So yeah, and yeah, no, it's been yeah, it's been challenging at times, but I think you don't grow if there's no challenge, right? So yeah, it's the thing, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like we're also sold this idea that as soon as you find your purpose, things will just fall into your lap easily and effortlessly. And what I experienced also from my own journey is that no, you gotta take action. Things don't fall easily into your lap. You still gotta put the work, the hours, etc., in order um to be successful in this entrepreneurial journey because it's very different from being an employee. really. I had to figure out, like, I have to look into the reality, into the truth, and be like, oh my God, I have no idea how to run a business. And step by step, figure it out. And still, I'm in the process of still figuring
Yeah.
this thing out. And it's beautiful to have support. What I also realize is good to be supported and have those coaches or those people who walked the path to help
Yeah,
you
yeah,
on
because I
this
think,
journey.
I mean, I don't want to make a connection that is not correct, but I feel sometimes, it's kind of easier sometimes to open up to people like, okay, you might go see a psychologist, but in this case of coaches, sometimes it's easier to open up to them about your own challenge than, you would do to your partner or you would do to your friends, or because they are there for that, and that's actually their expertise. So you don't feel like you're bothering them, with your trouble. So it's kind of like a safe place to
Yeah,
unleash, all the issues you're facing, all the self-doubt, all the judgment that you have. Frankly, I think it's highly beneficial, and look, I can't be the only one thinking that when you look at the number of coaches appearing day by day.
they're
But
growing more
yeah,
and more.
most
And
definitely.
yeah. So, what challenges did you face along the way on that journey to purpose?
A lot of challenges. I would say number one was my own self-doubt. Like the number one thing was I gonna make it? Like, was I gonna be successful in converting my 0 to 1 retainer opportunity? So that was a big one. And of course, like, there were part of me sometimes was like, oh, should I not just go back to the usual pattern, look for a full-time job, and get myself in a full-time job like I always did. The thing is, I think what pushed me to continue was, like, I would say this time in 2024, 2025, I mean, end of 2024, early 2025, finding a job was not as easy as it used to be. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to brag, but it was always easy for me to look for a job. Like, I mean, I never really struggled. Like, I think my it was good enough, my experience was good enough, but this was the first time that I was like, oh, yeah, maybe it's not good enough anymore. Either it's not good enough, either I'm older, so I also cost a bit more money, so there's that element. But still, that's also crept in, and when you start to think, oh, maybe I'm not good enough, to be on the market anymore. So you also have that, that's, you kind of lose your confidence. And I would say when you're not working, it's really hard not to lose your confidence, because, as I said, we're so attached to a job, and it's became part of our identity that it's really hard not to question yourself. Like a few of other colleagues have been in the same situation, and yeah, I mean, we're telling each other, yeah, it's part of the journey, but yeah, it can be difficult. So I would say self-doubt, self-confidence, and wondering, what if I don't manage to do it, like, then you get nervous. I'd say the second challenge was the fear of judgment, because I know a lot of people, to be fair, they don't mean bad, but it's more like myself, or I took it, versus my own judgment in my head, like, when they would say, oh, but how long are you gonna do that? Or, they would tell you, oh, but you had all this great company, like, why don't you come back to one of them? Like, so I actually met one of my previous colleagues from back in the days in Groupon. He's still in Singapore, and he's at sea level now. And he said, no, but yeah, you're doing that thing now. But I know it's temporarily. You're gonna get back into a big role, and you're gonna become sea level. And people project also what they want you to become or what they see in you, which is good as well. It's a good thing. But I felt that maybe I was disappointing him, like he was she's doing in her life. But again, that's my interpretation. That's what I mean. It's the fear of being judged. One of my friends also, he's a very successful guy, and he was saying, so where are you in your job search, and this and this and that. And I know it meant well. Of course, people meant well when they like you, but for me, I felt it was some kind of pressure, like, Oh gosh, well, yes, I'm interviewing XYZ company. I interviewed with good companies, but nothing really turned out so well. And then back in January, I said, look, I'm gonna invest my time really in the fractional thing because I think anyway that's what's going to pay off, and that's also what I want to do. But there was also that idea. Oh wow, because it's a bold risk. Like people see you like either you are crazy in the head or busy in the head for like doing something like without a backup plan, or also other people will actually find you courageous and brave for doing it and will actually claim for no matter small victory you have along the way, because I would say even the small victories when you're on your own in that journey it became like huge ones, like you become very proud of what you achieve, even though for anyone else it might not mean much, but for you, you know how long it takes, how much effort it is to get to that stage. So, and I'd say the last thing is, yeah, the fact that, as I said, I became a new mother, so I also had to navigate this new thing, like in in how it works, like family wise. So it also, my daughter became like of course like a big priority in my life. So how do I navigate that by also not just dropping my career completely, because that, as I said, that was not really an option I wanted to do. So yeah, it was not easy, and the last thing was the fear of depending fully on my husband. That was also a big no-no for me. Like I didn't want to. Of course, I'm married for like the past 6 years, but I didn't want to feel like I was putting my husband in a situation because of my choice of dropping that job without nothing. I didn't want it to have a big impact on my family, which actually it didn't. And that's the reality as well with money. I think it also taught me that we get so attached with our financial perspective, the money we earn, how much we have in our bank account, but you also realize that it's not everything, and you can actually like do fine like for a few months, without thinking that your money is going to drop to zero. Like clearly, like it was far from that. And I think that was something my first coach told me. She said, look, you have these savings. I mean, here in Dubai, of course, others in France, but I mean, I'm sure even with your savings in Dubai, you will not reach zero, and that's the reality. Like you don't reach zero, so sometimes yes, you take the move, you get worried, but it can be also a very calculated move, and you actually realize that you have more than you think you have to, yeah, to get there. But yeah, it's that fear of course, losing everything. It's not easy.
And all of that are the stories and anxiety of something that is not in the here and now. It's again
Yeah.
us flying into the future and creating these
Yes.
horror stories
Yeah.
in our
Exactly.
head
Yes.
that never, yeah, most of the
Yes, you
time,
are
like
on that.
95% of time, they never happen.
They never
And
happen
what you,
exactly. Yeah. Mm-mm.
yeah, and what you mentioned also, the first challenge, right, in regards to the difficulty to find a job. What I remember when we were working together, I also saw that your standards went up, right? Remember we were discussing about these like red flags, and
Yeah.
I feel like people who go through burnout, who start asking the right questions and getting the right answers, they stop saying yes to those opportunities that
Yeah.
don't align. And this is the alignment that you have mentioned also
Yeah. Yeah.
before. It's
Because
important
yeah,
to align
yeah.
with the environment, with the people, with the company, with what you do.
Yeah, no, truth be told, I had an offer back in January, but yeah, as we discussed,
Mm,
the company was
yeah,
giving me so many red flags. But I guess maybe 5 years ago, I would have taken that job probably thinking,
yes,
oh, it's
yes.
great, it looks great on the resume. But this time I said no, I'm not ready for that, because I could sense the environment. It wouldn't have been a healthy environment for me, but
Mm-hmm,
could be for other people, but at least I was not aligned with the values that they were carrying. So that was the big thing as well for me. Like, are you
mm-hmm.
aligned with the
Yeah,
values, and are you aligned with the direct person you're gonna report to, like especially like your manager and the founders of the company. They carry most of the culture with them, like
agree.
uh,
It's very important to be
yeah.
aligned with them. What are, a few tips or one tip for those who are in search of their purpose?
Well, go see a coach. That's
Go
my
see a
number
coach.
one.
I like
No,
it.
that's my number one thing. But the second thing I think was a great exercise we did with Ola was asking the people that you worked with, or even like people that you are close to in your life. It can be your partner, it can be your close friends, etc. To to ask them what they see in you. So I know Allah has a specific framework. I mean, I don't want to dwell on it and provide the wrong thing, but the idea is more like for them to give you a feedback about what they see in yourself, and it's quite interesting because how people perceive you versus how you think you are being perceived, or what you perceive of you. Like sometimes there could be like some differences, and it was quite interesting. And of course you ask also people that you're working with, like your existing colleagues, your ex-colleagues. And I think for finding the purpose, that was also very good in finding what you're really good at, in at work or even outside work, because also your hobby could become your next job. You never know. So it was very interesting, and yeah, it brings you also a lot of confidence into what you can bring to the work, or to life in general. So yeah, and I guess I think there's this idea that the purpose is always stays the same, but no, as I mentioned earlier, your purpose can be different at 25 than what it would be at 35, or what it would be at 45. So it's this idea that it's never set in stone, and that it can change based on your own environment, your own career, your own family life. Anything can make you change that. So I think that was the biggest learning for me. And I think the biggest advice is like, don't wait to feel ready, because if I had waited to wait to be ready to post on LinkedIn, I would still be waiting. Because
Yeah,
clearly,
yeah,
like,
the right time is now.
my first post, I was clearly like not ready at all, but still, it took me where I am today. And it's those small steps, around along the way, that make it work, and that make it a big step. So, and now, yeah, I just signed my second mission, like which is a true operational audit. So I'm really proud of finally going back to
Congrats.
operations space a bit deeper. And yeah, it's like, of course, it's my first real consulting work, but I'm confident in myself. I'm confident in the framework I have, and yeah, in a way, it brought me more confidence in myself, this whole journey that I had before, and also with the work with Ola, less anxiety about the future, because when you reach the bottom, in a way, at least how you perceive it can only get better, like, so I think it's the reassurance that yes, when bad things happen in your life, especially in your career, you can recover from it, and you can, recover better and in a different way, and learn something else along the way. I mean, it's, yeah, it's, you grow through adversity and through difficulties as well. It's not always perfect, and I think the biggest advice I got was from a friend of mine back in Singapore. She has an amazing career. She worked at Samsung, she worked at Johnson and Johnson, like big name companies. And she told me one thing one day when I first moved to Dubai, and I was saying, oh, I had that job at Disney, now I'm working for this smaller company. Yes, it's great, the environment is great, but it's not as good as working at Disney. As back in the days, I was very attached to that. And she told me a very good advice, and I think that's applicable to everybody. She said the career is never perfect, like nobody has really like a career that
Like
goes
this.
up all the
Yeah.
time and without any setbacks. She said, yeah, people will climb for a few years, that maybe they will remain stable, maybe they will drop. And when I say drop, it can mean everything to everyone. It can be you drop in salaries, or you drop in titles, or you drop in the idea of prestige of a company. But she mentioned that it's never like a perfect journey. You know, you're gonna face up and downs, and I think it's recognizing that yeah, when you're at the up, it's amazing, but you never know if the day after you might be at a down. So you always have to, yeah, to consider that. And I guess when those things happen and you recover from it and you grow out of it, it makes you, I guess, less scared, you know, of the future,
And stronger, I believe.
and stronger, you know, in the way of how you will navigate the difficulties.
Mm. And it's like life, right? We think life just goes like this,
Yeah,
but life is also goes ups and downs, ups and downs. But I also recently had a cool mindset shift, right? Where these two got connected. Because no matter if even if, with our downs, we still grow. So it's basically life goes like this,
yeah,
but then it also goes like this. So even when I have a down, this down is still higher than my up before. So
yeah,
it's kind of like showing, I really love this idea of seeing that no matter if I'm on my down in that situation where I feel down, I'm still higher than I was before. I'm still in the position where I can learn, where I can discover something new, where maybe life wants me to pivot. And as you said, we grow from these situations that are tough. As long as you choose to grow, as long as you choose to see the learnings
yeah.
in such situations.
Yeah, I think
Beautiful.
resilience. I think resilience is the biggest learning as well. Yeah, you need to be resilient and humble as well. Like you know, I think yeah, this kind of thing makes you more humble as well. That yeah, nothing is set in stone. Like you've seen people sometimes they're like sea level and yeah, tomorrow they might lose their title, they might lose their job. I think it can be like a very difficult journey, but it's also an humbling journey that yeah, we are not our jobs as well. Like we are like specific
Yes,
individuals with pros and cons, with flaws
with their own stories.
and beauties in them. But yeah, you're not your job basically, and yeah,
Absolutely.
that's the learning.
So we'll be moving to the second part where I'm going to be using the cards.
Okay.
We are not really strangers with random questions, personal questions. It has three levels. We start with level number one. Let's see what question pops up today. How many speeding tickets have you gotten in your life? That's a funny one.
How do they know that I got speeding ticket? uh, since I live in Dubai, yeah, I never worked in France, so I just go back to France for the summer. But yeah, it happens that I got speeding tickets there, and in Dubai, I don't know, 4, 5 per year. And this year was bad, but last year wasn't too bad. um, but I have to admit, my husband, when he drives my car, he also got me speeding tickets. Like the other day, I saw my fine, I was like, what's happening here? And then I saw it was on the way to Abu Dhabi, and it was his mistake. Well, I don't know, maybe 10, 15.
Yeah. In Dubai, fines are crazy. Yeah, I remember when I was driving in Dubai one year, I got, I don't know, I paid maybe 5,000, 6,000 dirhams fine.
Oh,
And
wow.
after that, I drive very thoroughly and I'm not speeding. That was my learning.
Yeah,
It cost me 6,000 dirhams.
yeah, yeah. No, I used to
Okay.
drive a
Let
Mini Cooper, so that was, you know, very easy to slide through.
Yeah. And when you go to Abu Dhabi, it's also the road is so the speed limit is 120, so it's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
easy to speed. Okay, level two. Let's see what we have here. Um, if you have, when was the moment you realized you weren't invincible?
Well, when I gave birth, because I almost died in the
Wow.
process. Yeah, I guess that's the time where I felt like death, you know, can be looking around the corner. And it's probably also deeply shifted also the way I saw life after that. Because, yeah, I really could have died that day. So, yeah, it was not like a great experience, but
Mm,
it kind of, she pulled back the car to realize, yeah, we're not invisible in the sense that, it can stop tomorrow. So you better learn how to live the life the fullest and how you want to live it. And, don't think like, oh, yeah, tomorrow, 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 because you, you never know if you will really be there tomorrow. So, yeah.
Literally, I'm getting goosebumps. I feel like children are one of our biggest teachers in life. Even, giving birth for a woman mm, is not an easy process. And thank
Mm,
God, you got out of it with your own learnings. And I feel like, yeah, the birth of your child was quite a pivotal moment for you, right? In so
yeah,
many
yeah, yeah,
ways.
yeah, yeah, it was. And yeah, I guess the second thing, unfortunately, a lot of people face that, is, when you see your loved one being sick as well, like having cancer. And yeah, you also realize that life is short, like a disease or something can happen to you tomorrow. So yeah, you need to, yeah, you don't want to, of course, I'm always happy, optimistic person, but yeah, you need to live your life, as much as full as you can, because you never know what can happen tomorrow. So
Yeah, it's about living life, really. Just live life. This is
yeah.
something we were discussing recently with a friend of mine, that a lot of people they just on autopilot go through life rather than living life.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for sharing. And we're moving to level 3. Wow, this question was before interesting. What Netflix recommendations can you give?
Just finished one show that I think has traumatized a lot of people.
My.
It's adolescents. Yeah, it's about that's a UK show that they film, like it's all in real time, like so you're really with the characters and it goes like through the motion. Sorry, I forgot the term in English, but yeah, it's kind of yeah.
It's a tough
Yeah,
one, right?
yeah, it's. I mean, it's not violent, I would say, but it's psychologically disturbing because, yeah, you don't know what goes through the mind of a teenager, basically. So it's exploring the theme about what they see on social media and how it's having an impact on them. So I guess it's a show when you became a parent, even though my daughter is only 1 year and a half, so small kids, small problems, you tend to
Yeah.
think, oh my God, further down the line, what can happen? So I guess it's not good for anxiety.
Yeah,
Even
exactly. I
even
feel
my
like I
friends,
stopped watching violent movies a few
well,
years ago.
my friends have
It's
said, it makes you question a bit, the world we're living and what the kids are being exposed to. But okay, on a
yeah.
more positive note, what else have I seen on Netflix that's a bit more happy? Um, no, not necessarily like a Netflix show, but I'm watching like those kind of French TV show about
Mm,
chef, that are competing with each other, and it's quite interesting. Like, how you become the best out of the whole chef, and maybe have a Michelin star at the end of it. So I like, food. I'm kind of like a gourmet person, so yeah, I think that's the kind of
yeah.
show I like to
Do you
watch.
cook or you're more you
No,
you like
neither.
eating more than cooking? Like me, I like eating more than cooking.
My husband, he likes to cook, me I'm more into eating. I'm good at cooking pastries, and yeah, I'm proud as well. A friend of mine is becoming a pastry chef. Like, she just finished her studies. She also reconverted, and she's 37, so she did the whole 1 year of training to become a pastry expert. So yeah, I'm very proud of her, for taking the gap as well to, you know, go outside her
Herself.
comfort zone and train herself.
Nice. Beautiful, Noemi. Thank you so much for today. Thank you for being such an amazing guest. And one more question. Where can people find you? What is the best way to contact you? Is it LinkedIn or there are other platforms that people can
Yeah, no, I would say through LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to talk through LinkedIn. People can DM me, follow me, or connect with me, and I'll be glad to answer any questions if they have any questions.
Mhm.
Recommend, the people that have helped me along the journey. And yeah, just tell them that everything will be fine.
Yes,
And
you're gonna be all right.
yes.
There is light
Yes.
on the other side, right?
Exactly. So yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for tuning in, for joining. We're going to be wrapping up for today. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.
Amazing.
Cheers.
Thank you so much, Ola. Thank you for the opportunity and thank you all for joining.
Thank you, Noemie.